Hello, good whatever time it is where you're watching this from. My name is Mweteeli. It has just gone 5 p.m. in East Africa, and I am the author of Play to Win. And I've been going through this every day at 5 o'clock for the last few days. I have been calling this Play to Win a chapter a day. And today we cover chapter 5, which is pay the price. Pay the price. Now, I want to assume I've put the link there. I want to assume that you've already downloaded the book Play to Win. I'm offering this free of charge, the ebook version. You can download it at our website, softskills.co.ke. I have put the link right there, and you're able to get your copy so that you can follow as we go along. So this is very good. Thank you for all the responses I've been getting. So many people have downloaded the book already. Now, sometimes we get a lot of people trying to download at the same time, and the system tends to crash. If that happens to you, just put in your email address again and download. It will come through. That just means that in that moment, there were a lot of people downloading at the same time, but the response has been awesome. I am very, very encouraged. Thank you so, so much. Like I said at the beginning, I decided to do this because I am in the middle of doing my new book, and I thought, why don't I now offer this book? I've been selling it for a few years. Why don't I offer this book to everyone who doesn't already have a copy, and let me share the content of that book? It's been very enriching for me, the experiences, the feedback that I have received from the people who've read that book. So thank you so, so much. Now, a quick recap. You might be joining this for the very first time, and so you don't know what we have been through. And so let me very, very quickly go through what we have covered so far. And the beginning of this book, the first chapter is Life Isn't Fair. The basic theme of this book is based on the parable of the talents that says to one he gave 3, to one he gave 5, to one he gave 2, and to one he gave 1. In other words, all of us have got an unfair advantage, a unique set of abilities, something that you find easy to do that other people may struggle to do, and therefore it is your obligation, it is your duty to find this thing and then excel, because you will do a lot better in life if you're operating from your area of strength rather than from your area of weakness. So basically, when we say play to win, we are saying be in the right spot, be in the right game, quote unquote, be in your area of unique ability, of unfair advantage, all right? And so chapter 1 was Life Isn't Fair, which is actually the subtitle of this book. And when we say life isn't fair, we are saying that there's an area where you have an unfair advantage. If your strength is in running, then you have an unfair advantage when it comes to running. I don't stand a chance if I run against you. If your gift is in singing, then if I'm singing against you, I don't stand a chance. So if you're going to compete, and life is a competition, if you're going to be competing, you want to be in your area of strength. So basically, that's what we got out of the way in chapter 1 when we talked about life isn't fair. Chapter 2 was why play? Why do I want to engage at all? Why don't I just go through life? And we gave quite a few reasons. At least 2 of them come to my mind. First of all, because it does give you an advantage in life. You're much more likely to succeed. Whether this success be in finance, be in the number of people that you get to influence, there's a lot of success that will come if you are playing in your area of unfair advantage. And the second reason we found for why you want to play, why you want to identify your area of strength, why you want to play in this particular area, was the fact that it gives you immense satisfaction to do that. If you have seen somebody operating in what is known as flow, if you have been in a position where you are in flow, then you know what I'm talking about. I have sometimes become inspired by something I've written myself. I read something and I go, whoa, then I figure, I wrote it myself, it's in my computer. That tells you that there is there's an area of your life where the spirit controls, the spirit takes you over. I've found myself saying things on stage which I didn't know before I picked up the microphone. So obviously it's not just quite me speaking, there is the spirit that is working through me. So you want to identify what that is for you. You want to identify what that is for you. I have a friend who's an artist who says that she could paint all night. When she gets in flow, she could paint all night. If you haven't had that feeling, you owe it to yourself to do it. And you will not do it unless you're in your area of unfair advantage. So that was chapter 2. And then chapter 3, which is entitled Pick Your Game, we were talking about how to identify this area of unfair advantage. It's all good for me to get here and tell you, identify your unfair advantage. What is your talent? Everybody has a talent. But possibly you're asking yourself, what is my talent? And so in chapter 3, we gave a few clues, a few ways in which you can identify what your area of unfair advantage is. And that could be it could be you could ask yourself questions such as, what do you naturally gravitate to? What do you tend to do with your free time, right? What do you naturally gravitate to whenever you have free time? What do you like to do? It's a good idea to allow yourself to like what you like. There's a very good reason why you like what you like, because the maker made each one of us completely different. There's a reason why you're passionate about the things you're passionate about, the reason you like the things you like. Allow yourself to like the things that you like. And number 2, we said, what would you do for free? These are questions that would lead you to identify your area of unfair advantage. What would you do for free? Another question would be, what have people complimented you for doing? Familiarity breeds contempt, so you might not think too much about your unfair advantage. Other people might point that out to you. So what have you been told by more than one person that you're good at? What do people enjoy doing? I know, for example, that there's people whose food, whenever the family gathers, there's the person who asks, no, you make the barbecue, you do the nyama, do the barbecue. There's people who do beautiful food. The whole family knows, if we're having this party, we want this person to cook. That will point you out to your gift, because you take it for granted. You find it very easy to, fire up the grill and do the barbecue. But that's gift, that's talent. Maybe the fact that you even enjoy it, these people who really enjoy feeding people, hosting people, that will point you out to your unfair advantage, to your gift, to your talent. And another way would be, what did you get in trouble for as a child? Sometimes, again, because when we are children, we are not yet caught up in fear, in comparison, in all the hang-ups of adulthood. So there's a lot you possibly did as a child that you kept doing, that you probably got into trouble for doing, but which could point you to where your unfair advantage is. So you possibly want to look at what you got in trouble for. So basically, that's what we talked about in chapter 3, which was pick your game. And yesterday we were talking about becoming action-oriented. It is not a function of how much you study. It's not a function of how much you research, how much you establish, write down all sorts of proposals and everything. It's a function of how much action are you willing to be in. A person who has slightly less talent but puts in a lot of more practice will do a lot better than a really gifted person who is lazy and doesn't take action. The one thing that will predict your future is how much action are you willing to be in. That is the one thing you can do to predict your future. So you want to be careful about that. You want to make sure that every day you are taking a small step towards whatever it is that you want to achieve. So take action was the chapter that we talked about yesterday. That was chapter 4. Today, we're talking about pay the price. Pay the price. Nothing that is worth having is free. Nothing that is worth having is free. Now, we are not talking about a monetary price. When we say pay the price, we're not talking about a monetary price. There's a lot, and we're going to go into the details of that in this discussion. There's a lot more than just money that comes into play when we are talking about the price of achieving our goal, the price of operating in our area of unfair advantage. I like a quote. If I had $1 for every time I've quoted this guy, that this just speaks so much to me. Les Brown is known for saying this: you must be willing to do today what others won't do in order to have tomorrow what others won't have. I'm going to say that again. You must be willing to do today what others won't do in order to have tomorrow what others won't have. So whatever it is that you need to do, if it is to go to get on the exercise bike, if it is to go to the gym, if it is to practice your craft, if it is to study for the exam, you have to be willing to put in more than the average person if the results you're waiting for are above average. Because there's a saying that goes, numbers don't lie. Let me stretch that a little and say, results don't lie. I like a speaker who said this once. She said, "We tend to judge ourselves by our intentions, but life judges us by our actions." Have you ever been sitting in front of the TV and watching news in the evening and seen a story, whatever story, or some houses are burned in the slum, or someone has gotten deported and is at the airport, or whatever it is that you see, and you sit there and feel really sorry for these victims for all of 2 minutes, and you think, oh, I'm a nice person, I really felt sorry for them. But what happens when you move to sports news? You start cheering your team on, you immediately forget about it. I was once really challenged by a lady I used to go to church with. There had been a story that had been going on for about a week about this Kenyan who got deported back into the country. And when she had left the country so many years ago, and I don't remember the detail of it, but she got to the airport and she had nowhere to go. And they put her in a room in the airport for at least 2 or 3 days. The country she was coming from was not accepting her. She didn't have clearance yet to enter this country. And so she was, and I'm sure these things happen all the time. But this happened to be the news, on the news for at least 2 or 3 days. And this lady really, really blew my mind. You know what she did? She thought to herself, this is a woman, she doesn't have her luggage with her. She must need clean underwear. And she went to the shop and bought a packet of panties and went there and told her, my name is so and so. I saw your story on the news and I figured, I don't know which country you're going to end up in, but one woman to another, you need a change of clothes. I was completely blown away by this lady's, her heart to help, her heart to serve. Because most of the time, we think to ourselves, I want to do this, but we don't end up doing it. So the first price you want to pay is to be in action, and we already talked about being in action. So we're going now. What stands in our way? What stops us being in action? One of the national schools in Kenya, one of the national high schools in Kenya, has the school motto at their gate. I drive past and I read it, and it says "Jishinde ushinde." That's Kiswahili for conquer yourself to win. So the biggest enemy, the biggest impediment, the person you have to overcome to reach your desired goal is the person who stares back at you in the mirror. You are your own worst enemy. Sometimes we become very good at deflecting, at looking at other people as being our obstacle. I can promise you that you are your own obstacle. So when we talk about you need to pay the price, the first thing you'll want to do is to overcome yourself. You'll have to overcome yourself. All the doubt, all the negative conversation that is going on in your head, you will have to overcome that. Now, I have a few pointers. Now, like I said already during the other chapters, I'm not going through this book chronologically. You have the book already, you can read it. But I'm just picking up some of the key thoughts as we go through it. So I'm not trying, this is not an audio book. There's an audio book available for this book. This is not a chronological order. I'm just picking up the things that stand out to me. And I did write this book quite a few years ago. But I want to believe that I have grown as well. So I'm having new insights and everything. So that is what I am sharing here. So I have put on a few pointers that stand out for me throughout this chapter, and those are the ones I want to share now. The first one is this. First of all, we've already clarified that there's always a price to pay. There is always a price to pay whenever it is that you're thinking about your goal, whatever it is that you're trying to, if you're deciding today that my gift is in this and I want to go into that thing that's my gift, there is always a price to pay. So let's look at some of the areas. Now, one of the ways in which you want to pay the price is this. Always look your best. Always look your best. I don't care that you're an IT expert. I don't care how background your role is. Always look your best. There's the adage that goes, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. You want to look your best. Now, that is not to be confused with wear expensive clothes. That is not to be confused with wear labels. You know, you must be wearing designer this and that. No. But at all times. Now, I remember when I got my first book published, and that was at least 15 years ago. There was a lady who said this to me. Now, she really set a high standard for me. She said, don't ever leave your gate in anything you wouldn't be proud to be seen with in tomorrow's newspaper. And I say, that's a very, very high price. So that even when I'm driving out to rush to the supermarket to pick up 2 loaves of bread and some milk, I still need to be able to be picture ready. All right? That is a very high price. I realize that. But that is the standard you want to set for yourself. You want to make sure that at all times you are camera ready. Now, I have been known to say this all the time, that God's currency is not cash. God's currency is people. So whatever it is you're praying for will come to you through somebody. Now, do you know that you're not going to meet that person today? No, you don't. Therefore, you want to make sure that you look your best at all times. I've had several slip-ups with this. And the one that comes to my mind was at one point the concept of a 24-hour supermarket was pretty new in Kenya at one point. That time my children were still small, and so they were excited. Mom, we can go to the supermarket in the middle of the night. And so one Saturday evening at about 10:30 in the night, we decided to go to the supermarket. Now, there was nothing special we were going to buy. We were just going to pick up a few things. We were really just going to the mall. And it was a very, very cold evening in July. I was wearing a huge, huge sweater, woolen thing that's halfway down to my knees. I was not looking pretty. And so I didn't care. It's the middle of the night. And so we go to the shop. And so as you're walking up and down the aisles, I see somebody. Have you ever seen someone and you're thinking, no, I don't look right. And the lesson of be camera ready whenever you leave your home was hitting in my head like this. You already warned about this. And so she comes and says, hi, how have you been? There's an old friend of mine who had been in school with her. She was going to a party. Now, if you had seen her standing there, you would not have thought these are two ladies who were in the same class. No, you would have thought this is someone and her grandmother. I remember that lesson clearly, that even when it's the middle of the night, do not get out of your gate unless your camera ready, unless you look right. Now, she probably didn't think much of it. But listen, I always tell people this. You're going to this event, you're going for a job interview, you're going to make a presentation, you're going to do something that's important. Don't dress well for how it makes you feel. Don't dress well for how it makes you look. Dress well for how it makes you feel. Because when you know you're wearing your best shoes is the way you walk. When you know you're wearing something that it doesn't have to have costed you too much. But when you know you're looking good, that whole attitude, the ambience, it makes you feel right. And remember that the world is a mirror. People will catch your positive energy. People will catch the vibe that you're feeling. When you're feeling good, you're speaking well, you are exuding confidence. So dress well, not for how it makes you look, but dress well for how it makes you feel. All right? Now, number 2, you want to guard your mind. Your entire world is based on what you're thinking. Now, what you're thinking is based on what you're hearing, what you're seeing. So you want to put a guard on what you're seeing. Don't get into gossipy, negative conversation all the time. Don't fill your mind with news. Don't listen to too much negative because it reflects on you. It reflects on you. Now, we're just coming out of the COVID pandemic, and I do not want to minimize that in any way at all. People have lost their lives. Sorry, this has been tragic economically, people's lives, and all of that. But in my experience, there has been a drastic difference in the people who sat in front of their TV during the lockdown and watched all of these reports all day. And for those people who found something positive to do during that time, there was a vast difference in their reaction. There were people who were so fearful, so fearful. I'm actually right now reminded of a story I saw once on news. There was a gentleman who, I think it was somewhere in Zimbabwe or something. It's been a while since I saw this, but it just comes to my mind right now. The man had gone to hide during a particular war, I think when they were getting their independence or something. He went to hide somewhere in the forest and was living in a cave. And that just became his life. And 40 years later, he doesn't know that the country left the war a long time ago. People moved on. He completely has lived his life in seclusion over the last 40 years. You want to guard your mind. If you're filling your mind with negativity all the time, that should tell you you're never going to have anything positive come out of you. You want to guard your mind. You want to put Be intentional about feeding your mind with positive information. Guard your mind. Do not get into negative conversations. Do not watch too much negative news. Do not read the wrong things. Do not watch so many. At one point, I was talking to my children, and their friends were around and they were watching. I think someone had a nightmare and they were talking about it. And I'm like, what do you expect? Why would you watch horror movies and go to bed and then not expect that you'll have nightmares? Of course, you're going to have nightmares. You're going to be chased by all sorts of devils. That's what you filled your mind with just before you went to bed. It's straightforward common sense. Guard your mind. If people are telling you, no, this is not possible, you want to avoid such people, because you need all the positive energy you can find in order to reach the goal that you're trying to accomplish. All right. And the third one is this: you might have to make financial sacrifices in order for you to achieve your goal, achieve your dream and everything. You might want to become very financially savvy. You might want to postpone gratification. You might want to, and we're going to have a subsequent chapter where we talk about winning long term. But there is financial decisions you make now that will make it possible for you to achieve your dream. You want to make sure that you are managing your money in a very savvy manner. If you need the services of a personal finance manager, that might be a good idea, so that then you know that you're managing your money well. You might have to make some sacrifices. You might not be able to buy all the things you want to buy right now, but that sacrifice will pay off when it comes to your dream, when your dream has been actualized. So you might want to pay the financial price right now so that you delay gratification, and long term you end up benefiting from the sacrifices that you made at this time. So make financial sacrifices. Now, be willing, this is the next point, be willing to stand alone. One of the biggest prices you ever have to pay for success is loneliness. I like a quote by Margaret Thatcher, a past Prime Minister of England, who once said, the Prime Minister's job is a lonely place, and it should be, because you can't lead from a crowd. It is not possible for you to lead from a crowd. At the end of the day, if you're going to be a leader, think about a pyramid. This is about the shape of a pyramid. At the apex, there can only be one person. So it's obvious that you're going to be lonely when you're pursuing your dream. That is just part of the price you pay for pursuing your dream. It's part of the price that you pay for pursuing your dream. There's the cliche that goes that eagles fly alone. If you want to be a chicken, you can, but if you want to fly at the altitude of an eagle, then chances are you're going to have to fly alone. Overcome excuses. Just yesterday I was doing a video and I was saying something about what did I say? Your blame list is nothing other than your excuse list. And I was saying that to say that sometimes we find the person who is to blame for our predicament, our situation, our challenges. But I always ask myself, okay, fine. Say, for example, my challenge has to do with my finances, and my finances are not right. I don't like how my finances are going. If I found the person who is to blame, and possibly the person who is to blame is my boss, is COVID, is my mother, is my husband, is my child, whoever it is that is to blame for my situation. All right, we've identified the person who is to blame. How has that changed my situation? Not at all. It doesn't help. It doesn't help to play the blame game. It does never help to play the blame game. So overcome excuses. Whatever your excuse is, I'm too fat, I'm too thin, I'm too fat, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too black, I'm too brown, I'm too yellow, I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. Whatever it is that is your excuse, there is someone in that exact situation who has done well. So that just means that your excuse is not valid. It isn't valid. If, for example, you figure you came from the wrong family, are you saying there is no one in that family or in that kind of a situation who has succeeded? If you're saying you're not from the right part of the world, are you saying in your entire county, in your entire country, there is no one successful? That's your clue. That is nothing other than an excuse. So overcome your excuses. Now, create new habits. Create new habits. Now, in order for you to pursue your dream, you have to become a completely different person. You have to become a completely different person if you're going to pursue your dream. You're going to have to become totally different person. You're not going to get to where you're trying to go. Now, the person that you are, the habits, the personality you had, the habits you had, were good enough to bring you here. But you're trying to go there. So you have to become another person. In Christianity, it's called you need to be born again. That makes sense to me. You need to become a completely new person. You have to create habits. Now, if we're going to refer some obvious habits that will lead to success, things like wake up early. No one that you know who is successful wakes up at noon. That's something you might want to tell the teenagers who want to sleep half the day. All right? No one successful sleeps half of the day at all. No one that I have met. So waking up early is a habit you might want to create. Physical exercise is another one. It helps your body, it helps your brain for you to get in some physical exercise on a regular basis. Make it something fun. Don't go for things that you don't like doing. Find a sport you like doing. If you like walking, if you like swimming, if you like going to the gym, whatever it is that you find some enjoyable things that you do on the physical that help you. All right? So create healthy habits. All right? And the next one is this. You have to allow yourself to lose sight of show. In other words, you have to burn your bridges. You have to burn your bridges. When you're holding on to security, when you're holding on to the past, when you're holding on to old habits, the things that you're familiar with, you're never going to progress to the next level. You're never going to progress to the next level. I remember I have been offered a few jobs through my career, and I've always said to myself, hey, if I go and take that job, it looks tempting right now. It will solve my immediate problem. It will pay my next bill. But I will have to sacrifice my dream. So I have to give up the security of a salary in order to pursue my dream. That may not be your dream, that's just mine. So find whatever your dream is and burn your bridges and go for it. And that is the way you're going to be able to achieve your dream. Now, develop a good work culture. Develop a good work culture. In the previous chapter, we were talking about action orientation. You have to be action oriented. No amount of studying, discussing, intention is going to help you unless you put some action behind it. Now, you want to develop a good work culture. People are going to say all sorts of things to you. Work smart, work what, but listen, you have to work hard. You just have to work hard. I keep on saying this about the people who have left our country and who have migrated to the Western world. And if you see their lifestyle, and they might have a lot of more material comforts than we possibly have right here. But the basic difference between them and us is their work culture, the number of hours they are willing to put in. Over here, I don't think we work very hard. That's just my opinion, but we do not work very hard. We are very conversational, which is an okay thing. We are very relational, which is an okay thing. But we tend to not have a good culture. Anything is an excuse to not go to work. First of all, we have so many public holidays, I don't even want to go there. And then even when we are at work, we are half the time we are on Facebook, half the time we're having conversation with person. Ask yourself if you're going to be honest with yourself. In a working day of 8 hours, how many hours are you actually working? How many hours are you actually working? In as much as you sat in the office 8 to 5, how many hours were you actually working? So we want to develop a good work culture. Another thing we want to do is to manage our time well. We want to manage our time well. If there's one thing we were all given equally, that thing is time. We may not have, and we've talked about your excuses and everything. You might have valid reasons, not just excuses, for why it's slightly more difficult for you than for the next person. But the one thing we were all given equally is time. All of us were given time absolutely equally. We have 24 hours. And I'm sure you've had this already. If you have something that must get done, give it to a busy person. The other kind has no time. Have you ever had a relative in your house? You know, one of these people who come possibly from our country and they've been in your house, maybe it's a young man who's finished school waiting to go to college, and they're hanging around your house. And you ask them to do a small assignment, you know, please wash this car by evening, please wash this carpet, please clean up this garage. Just something that's a chore that needs to be done at home. When you come back in the evening, is it done? No. because they woke up, they meant well. They woke up at 10 o'clock. Or even your own teenage children, school holidays and everything. You give them a small assignment. Please clean this out by the time I come back. Please empty out this. Something small that would have taken 25 minutes. But they wake up, and then they have their breakfast mid-morning, then they figure, let me first watch this show. Then they're sleepy and they take a nap, and then they do this, and before they know it, the day is over. If you have something that must get done, give it to a busy person. The other kind has no time, all right? So you want to be able to manage your time well. Everyone gets 24 hours. It's amazing how much some people fit in 24 hours when there's others who simply don't accomplish very much. You want to make sure that your work culture is intact. All right, keep learning, keep learning. You want to make sure that in life, you are a lifetime student of the thing you love. Remember, we are talking about your unfair advantage. We are talking about an area that you like. For example, I like personal development. It's the business in which I am. I like financial well-being. I study these things almost 24 hours. On a good day, I will listen to videos and read books and consume material for at least 2 hours. Because if I'm in the gym and I'm getting my workout done, I'll have my earphones on and I'm listening to something. If I'm driving and I have something on, I'll have something playing. And I've had some run-ins with my children. They're like, no, Mom, I want to play music. I'm like, don't worry. The day we're in your car, we can play music. But in this car, we are playing this video. Because I want to keep on learning. I want to keep on learning because I know the distance between where I am and where I'm trying to go is information. So if I'm taking a 2-hour trip, I want to spend those 2 hours learning something new. Make sure that you are learning all the time. You're learning all the time. I'm sure you're familiar with the common story about the two people who are felling trees, and one of them would finish and sharpen his axe. He finishes and sharpens his axe. So he spends some of his time sharpening his axe. When we say be a student of what you love, we are saying sharpen your axe. Because your brain, your knowledge base is what determines how much you make, is what determines where you get at the end of your life or wherever the destination that you have set for yourself. So you want to be a lifetime student. There's reading, there's listening, there's attending events, there's learning from people who are better than you in that area. You want to be a constant lifetime student of the things that you love. Now, this is a very good one here. I like this. Learn to ask. Learn to ask. Half of the things that we don't have in our lives are because we haven't asked. We haven't asked. It's interesting. I'm just thinking to myself right now. You could be having a girlfriend and you want to ask her out and you haven't asked her. Or you want her to marry you and you just haven't asked her. The worst that will happen is this. Now, if I apply to go to Harvard today, now I've used this analogy many times. If I apply to go to Harvard and they told me what is this, Black woman, Africa, we don't know who this is, and they say no, what have I lost? Was I in Harvard before? No. Am I in Harvard now? No. What has changed? Absolutely nothing. The worst that will happen when you ask is you will be told no. That's a risk worth taking if you're going to ask me. So take the risk. Ask. Ask. If somebody has something that you would like to have, just ask. Now, a lady told me this story and I thought it was tragically funny. They were having a retreat. They were having a training. Actually, it wasn't a retreat. It was a training program. And it was in Nairobi, but it was across the city, all the way across the city. So that to commute from our home to that hotel where the conference was held was a 2 hour. So she needed to leave home about 5 o'clock to beat the traffic and be there on time. And she did that a whole weekend. She had a small child. It was all sorts of sacrifices for her to be able to make it. Now, on the last day in the afternoon, she happened to be sitting next to her boss at lunch. And she was like, oh my goodness, it would have been so nice if I had stayed at the hotel. It would have been so much easier for me. And the boss said, why didn't you just ask me? I had the budget. Can you imagine how she felt? It's now the last day. All she had to do was to ask, excuse me, is it possible for me to stay at the hotel where the event is? That way I don't have to commute every morning. The boss could have said A, yes, or B, no. How would her life have changed? Not at all. Just learn to ask. Just learn to ask. And similar to asking is this, pray. Pray. There's a powerful thing in the world called prayer. There's things that have come into my life that were an absolute miracle because I dared to pray. And while you're praying, pray big. If you are believing in the maker of heaven and earth, then you want to pray big prayers. Don't pray small prayers. Don't pray those things that you know how to get. Don't pray for something which you're then going to ask your uncle. No, no, no. Pray for things that will take God. Pray a big prayer. While you're on your knees, pray a big prayer. Now, to summarize this discussion, I want to say this. The highest price you would ever pay is not to pay. Does that make sense? The highest price you ever pay. Have you ever heard that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance? It's the same thing. The highest price you ever pay, the biggest regret you'll ever have at the end of your life is if you didn't jump, is if you didn't go for your dream, is if you didn't pursue your unfair advantage. All the people you admire, all the people who have done well in life have done so because they have pursued their dream, they have pursued their goal. So jump in there and do your best. All right? So that brings us today. I've overshot the time a little, but this was a longer chapter than the ones we've been covering. I think it's very, very important. I want to go through the points to ponder. If you're starting with us today, then you know that at the end of every chapter in this book, there is the section called Points to Ponder, which asks you some questions based on the lessons of that chapter, which allows you to write down what are your action plans, what are the things you're going to do, what is coming to your mind based on what you have read in that chapter. And today says, what did I give up on? And I think I could have succeeded if I had been slightly more persistent. What did I give up on if I had persisted a little? I know, for example, that I have given up on some businesses that possibly would have done well. Maybe I gave up on some goals that I had. What are some of the things that you have given up? What luxuries do you need to forfeit, even for a short while, in order to pursue your dream? Ask yourself, what do I need to put off? Remember, we said you might need to make some financial sacrifices. What are some of the luxuries? What harmless activities, hobbies, and pastimes would I have to give up that are stealing my time? What are some of the things that are taking away time from my dream, from my passion? What are some of the things? Do I need to watch less Netflix? Do I need to cut down on the number of nights I'm going out in a week? What are some of the, this is very personal to you. This is a conversation you can only have with yourself. No one else can be in this conversation. In what areas have I been procrastinating? In what areas have I been procrastinating and I need to act now? What are some of the things? And maybe the things are just about asking. Maybe it's just something you need to ask someone. What have you been putting off that you need to do immediately? What do I need divine intervention for? Write down some of the prayers that you need to make towards your future. So that covers chapter 5, which was on pay the price. And as you can see, the price that you have to pay for your dream is hardly financial. There's so many other areas. This is not an exclusive list. Like I said, I'm not going through the book verbatim because you already have the book. It's a free download and I have put the link there. All I'm trying to point out is some of the key thoughts that come to me throughout the book. Thank you once again so much for all the feedback that I am receiving, for all the people who have downloaded the book. Please read it, please share it. Whenever I learn something, I like to call my life principle learning aloud. If I'm learning something, I'm sharing it. And when I teach 10 people, I hear it 10 times, they each hear it once. So when you're sharing information with other people, you're learning it better yourself. So share the information that you're learning here. I will see you tomorrow when we talk about chapter 6, Get Around Winners. But in the meantime, have a very good day, have a very good evening. It's goodbye for now. Bye-bye.